Looks like we're about ready to get started on the race. We've switched over to the race scene now for everybody's viewing pleasures. So I'm going to jump back with the runners and get ready to give them a countdown.
Awesome.
So look forward to that, guys.
Looking forward to it, too. So you're going to notice that time hasn't started until everyone gets out of the active or wait battle mode screen. And this is the standard screen that you would get at the beginning of the game anyway. This tells you how you interact with the active battle time system in the game. Wait being that whenever you are in a menu, all ATB for everyone stops. So you can take your time and think about what you're going to do and set things up. Active being monsters can take their actions as soon as their ATB fills up. Pretty standard SNES JRPG setup like that. You're going to see them begin in 600 AD. If you're familiar with the game, there are different eras in Chrono Trigger, and you're going to begin in the past, 600 AD, and you are given the epoch, your time machine, immediately, with its wings and everything. And you will have access to the present, 1000 AD. The rest of the eras are locked behind key items, and we'll go into a little bit of that as we continue through and watch where the runners are going here. You're not going to see a whole lot of familiarity as far as the function of the key items, though. We have an interesting start with Megas and Robo, a very powerful start. And here they go. Megas is really good opening game. It doesn't start with any of his spells yet because that would be a little too powerful. Rasmussen kind of determined that in order to rebalance the game out a little bit, you had to make Magus learn all of the spells, just like everyone else would learn all the spells, but doesn't need to go to the end of time to learn those spells. I'll talk about that in a bit. And Robo doesn't need to go to the end of time to learn his skills either. So this is a big thumper party right here. You got high yield physical damage and high yield magic damage right out of the gate. Now you only start with the two characters as if you would be starting with, say, Chrono and Marley. And we're going to see a pretty standard opening game for a randomizer from everybody. We've got some menu configuration over there on averaen's stream, and we've got some looting going on in proccy's stream right now. And you're going to see a lot of checking of shops, buying of heals, shelters, revives, all of the baseline items that you need in order to survive these. Proccy's doing something that I kind of call playing NPC tag. You talk to that guard right there at the entrance of Zenon Bridge, and it opens up the ability to do the Zenon Bridge side quest, which offers a key item. Meanwhile, averaen is going to the present and going to loot some of the tab locations. Now, everybody knows about tabs if you played Chrono Trigger, your speed tabs, power tabs, and magic tabs. None of those locations are randomized, and what the tabs are in those locations are also not randomized. And speed tabs are a very good source of balancing out your party and making sure that everyone can take their turns in the manner that you need them. Proccy's shopping at Leon Square, Melchior's shop, is not randomized as far as all of the things that he offers. He always offers a weapon for each of the possible characters and revives and shelters. The weapons are randomized within a tier, but you're guaranteed to get at least a decent weapon for that. But Proccy didn't see anything that he liked. He's just doing a little shopping. Now he's going to go to the snail stop where you normally get the jerky. And you can see that here, he's not offering jerky, he's offering tools. What is tools? Tools is exactly what it was in the base game, Chrono Trigger, which is it allows the carpenter in the past to fix the ruins north, where Cyrus's grave is. And it allows you to upgrade the Masamune to the Masamune 2. It doesn't really offer any progression, though, so Proccy noped out of it. Averaen is doing something that Ice Blue discovered while running this game before. Shoutouts to Ice Blue on this one. Taking a fight here If you go into the Village of Monsters in the present, you can actually get into an Omicron hench fight if you plead for them to sell something to you. And it gives you enough experience to gain 5 levels and your first skill for most of the characters. It's a good way to get up there so you can actually deal some damage once you get to really exploring the dungeons. And Procky, I didn't see what Procky got just over there, but the lazy carpenter, who would normally give you his tools, gives you a key item there, or rather his wife gives you a key item there. It looks like it's the Chrono trigger? Definitely take a look at that, because there's no doubt that averaen's going to definitely get that. That is one of 2 free-ish checks. It's free in the sense you don't really have to do any quests or anything in order to get it. Now Procky's going to do that grind fight, while averaen does a little bit of shopping in Land Square. Ah! Highlighted the pendant. Got it. So the pendant, now we're going to get into era gating. The pendant is what locks the future. So you'll notice you can only go to the 2 eras right now, 600 AD and 1000 AD. The pendant allows you to go into Chrono's trial scene, where you would normally bust out of prison, fight the dragon tank, and then escape Guardia Castle. And when you escape Guardia Castle and you go in through the warp gate, it warps you to the future, and then you have access to the future from there. So right now we have access to the future. It also offers us access to magic. So for any character that needs to learn magic from the end of time, Chrono, Frog, Luca, or Marley, you have to go to the end of time in order for them to progress beyond their first spell. We allow the first spell in Jets of Time for balancing reasons. But you have to go to the end of time to get past that first spell. And there are 2 ways to do it. One, you get the gate key, and the gate key you take to the present, and you go in through a closet door, and you go all the way back up and around prehistory, which is where it leads you, and you fall through the gate in prehistory, and that takes you to the end of time, and you can get magic there. Or in the future, you can do the Dome side quest, Robo's factory side quest, and that will open up the back room to where you normally find Robo in the beginning of the game, and that gets you to the end of time via the gateway there. Now we see them both doing the cathedral, and we have a vanilla Frog location right here. This is where Frog normally joins you in the beginning of the game when you're looking for Queen Lian in the cathedral in the past. This character is randomized, but we have a vanilla randomization here, so Frog is Frog this time around. And now the dungeons aren't randomized in the sense that the monsters are still in their same locations. It's still the same monsters. There's a little bit of rebalancing that happened to allow the monsters to be, broachable at lower levels. But for the most part, it is exactly what you would expect. And Procky's going to do a little bit of looting here in the cathedral. In fact, averaen's going to do a little bit of looting in the cathedral as well. Procky's doing the Nagaet bromide fight right there. 3 henchmen come in saying that you're stealing the bromide, which you can turn into an old man in the past for 1 of each tab. Instead of just a magic tab, which is what you would normally get in vanilla, we've added an incentive here to get a speed tab, a magic tab, and a power tab. But I have a feeling that Procky took that fight for a little bit more experience. We're looking for somewhere around level 32 to 36 for a good, safe Lavos fight. So you'll see a lot of choice grinding spots. Now, averaen's going to forage a little bit deeper into the dungeon right here. We might actually see averaen finish Cathedral. Whenever I run this game, I tend to just get the character in the front and go, nope out of it and move on. But you could potentially be negating the chance for a really nice character, say an Ayla, a Chrono, something really, really handy. So Averaen's going to continue into the cathedral. He's doing a very required fight. You cannot run from this fight. 3 henchmen, 2 Diablos. And this fight unlocks the door in the very back of the cathedral that gets you to the Yakra fight. And speedrunners know this fight as a silly, silly fight that you glitch your way through in the any percent speedrun. The no LSS and any percent speedruns using the elixir glitch. That uses the save anywhere glitch. And you see Yakra just standing by and saying hello as you pretend that he's dead. But the glitchless flag is on for this, and there are a multitude of different flags that can be enabled for this game. Right now, the flags that have been enabled are glitchless. We have fast overworld movement. It doesn't affect movement in the dungeons, per se, but it does affect movement on the overworld and movement in the epoch. So you can go blazing fast when you're going from dungeon to dungeon. We have fast movement in menus. This is kind of a matter of taste for runners. A lot of runners like it, a lot of runners don't. But if you're not using the de-equip glitch, you tend to want faster inputs in the menus. Boss scaling is a relatively newer addition to this game. Boss scaling being that as the game goes on, as you get further and further into progression, bosses get harder and harder. And then there is a fun little thing called the Powered Up Pendant, which allows that once you make it to the future, the pendant, which you normally would have to power up through the Mammon machine in the Dark Ages, is considered to be already powered up, and you can get all of those sealed chests and sealed doors. It's a really nice way to get some of those OP weapons. So we got 2 methods of running right now. Averaen is showing us what happens when you complete the cathedral, and Proccy has decided to go with an arguably faster strategy in just noping out, taking some of the equipment that you can find down in the basement of the cathedral, and then moving on. And he kind of got sandwiched between the maid and the cook. So he's in a bit of a pickle there. Had to wait for the cook to get out of his way. But when you talk to the cook stops you and normally gives you a jerky. This is a randomized key item, though. And we've got the Ruby Knife. And now we get to talk about what that means. So let's talk about the paths to Lavos. How do you beat the game? How do you get to Lavos if everything's gated? Well, you got 3 paths to Lavos in this game. And the first one is Gate Key. Gate Key unlocks access to prehistory. And in prehistory, you have the Chrono layer. If you have the Dreamstone, you can unlock access to the depths of Chrono layer. And then you fight Azala and the Black Tyranno. And that sends you through a gate to the Dark Ages, 12,000 BC. And in 12,000 BC, at the top of the Kingdom of Zeal, you have the sealed door that gets you to the Palace Central, the throne room, and that is locked by the Ruby Knife. The Ruby Knife allows you access to the Golem fight there, and then the Ocean Palace, and the Ocean Palace is how you get to Lava. That's one path. The second path being Bent Sword and Bent Hilt, you take to Melchior, who forges it into the Masamune. You get Frog wielding that sword, and he hacks into a mountain, and it allows you access to Magus' castle. Magus' castle allows you access to the Dark Ages via the portal that opens up when you beat Magus. And then the Ruby Knife allows you access to the Ocean Palace as previously stated. That's the second path. And the third path to Lavos is the Pendant, which unlocks the future, 2300 AD. And then you take the Chrono Trigger and the Clone to the dome next to Death Peak. And you talk to Balthazar, or the new that became Balthazar. And that unlocks the way to Death Peak. you do Death Peak, and that unlocks and raises the Black Omen, and the Black Omen gets you to Lavos via Queen Zeal. Can you have Magus on Magus action? You absolutely can. Magus versus Magus is one of my favorite fights. So now that we know what the paths to Lavos are, that Ruby Knife becomes very important because it's the end game to 2 of those paths. So proccy decided to go with that and is now doing the Zombor fight. Now you cannot do the Zombor skip that everybody knows and loves, because this cutscene gets forced into, so you can't save anywhere. Now, Averaen just completed the cathedral, and where you normally would rescue Marley from the depths of the darkness or the unknown, is another randomized character. And that randomized character turned out to be Luca. Luca is a very powerful black mage, fire mage, and is very much worth. Very much worth. The rebalancing, it took a little while to get her to be not as squishy for a lot of magic power, but now definitely worth having in your party. And we've got a very magic-heavy party. Magus with his utility magic, Luca with her powerful black magic. Averaen takes a look at the Zombor thing and says, Ruby Knife, yes please. And now they're both going to do the Xenon Bridge right here. Procky's at the end of the Xenon Bridge, Averaen at the beginning of the Xenon Bridge, and we see our paths have sort of started to converge here. A lot of divergent ideas, but it invariably comes back to somewhat of a similar place, right? There are a couple of other locations that can be explored immediately. Sunken Desert is one of them. Sunken Desert is exactly what you would think it is. You have the hexapods and the mohabbers. You have retinite in the bottom and all those treasure chests. And it's a great source of grinding early game. Sunken Desert is open immediately in 600 AD. And you can go down there. If you have Robo, you can actually get the key item for beating retinite there. But you can always go to Sunken Desert for those 7 fights at the top and all of the treasures down below. That will always be open right at the beginning. The other place that's open right at the beginning is Denadoro Mountains, where you would normally fight Massa and Mune, and then them together. That offers you a key item where you would normally get the Bent Sword. And then finally, in the present, Hecarim Cave is an open check right out of the gate. It is exactly what you think it is. It requires magic damage in order to get through, so it tends to be something that you don't see runners do right out of the gate, but it definitely is a great early check. And due to some of the rebalancing, you get oh wow, you get some pretty good stuff from there. Speaking of good stuff, proccy just got a Nova armor as a drop from Zombor. Top tier piece of gear for either Magus or Frog or Robo. And now proccy's trying to get his reward for the Naga et Bromide, which is, I believe, on a timer. You have to talk to the old man, and then you have to say, "Oh, the chest is locked." But then you sit there and you wait, and you get your reward when he unlocks the chest and moves up. Let's see where proccy goes. So while Averaen does his Zombor fight, proccy is thinking, pops a shelter, and decides to go upward. I'm curious to know what proccy's going to do here. Proccy's going to go shopping. He's going to go back to Leon Square, probably to get a sword for Frog, because right now Frog's rocking an iron sword. And you can see another interesting element is you can sell accessories in this game, and accessories tend to go for quite a hefty sum of money. It ends up being a good source of purchasing all of the items necessary to get yourself through a good, solid, quick run. If you're ever interested in playing this thing, once you get comfortable with the flow of the game, it is rare that you see a seed last 2.5 hours. There are some outliers that can really come up and bite you, but it is rare to see a seed beyond 2.5. So it's a worthwhile experience. And it's a good, solid, quick shot of Chrono Trigger, which is definitely what you're looking for in an open world rando. Proccy is going up Denadoro Mountain. Now, Denadoro Mountains is a bit of a longer check. Here. There's a lot of required fights. There's a lot of navigating the mountains. There's tons of different screens that you have to get through. And there's 2 boss fights, too. You have the Masa and Mune fight, and then you have the Masamune fight. But sometimes that can be the difference between win or lose. You got a ruby knife if you find one piece of the Masamune, or if you find a gate key, if you find a dream stone. All of those could be potentially worth giving you a path to Lavos. Everyone's looking for an early gate key when they run this. Now, why is that? Because gate key allows you access to the end of time right away. With the pendant, you have to go through the prison sequence, and then you have to do the factory sequence on top of that. It's 2 dungeons that are required to get end-of-time access to get magic. Whereas the gate key gives you magic basically immediately. You just go through a couple of gates, and wham bam, you're done. But right now, Proccy is going to take a moment, take this Ogon and Goblin fight. I think Proccy's taking some fights to get some experience because the Masamune fight is very, very rough. It's been a little bit buffed, but not too bad. It's definitely not vanilla, but it's definitely not overpowered. But he can definitely chop you, and every speedrunner knows that you don't want him to chop you in the face. That's the attack that you really don't want to see, and back-to-backer can really troll you. So averaen is done with his Zombor fight. Curious to know where averaen's going to go next. Looks like Proccy either took this sequence of fights intentionally in order to get more experience, or just forgot that there is a fight trigger tile down there. Now, one of the interesting things about Chrono Trigger is you can skip a lot of these fights. For example, where Proccy is right now, if you take your party leader and you go up and trace the very top of that ridge that he's standing on right now, you can avoid this fight. You don't have to take it. And there are a lot of little battle skips that you can take to make every one of these seeds just that much faster. You can see he made a little bit of a weird path. He's making a little bit of a weird path there. Proccy just skipped 5 fights right there. So movement is incredibly important. Turned up a little too soon. There's a row of trigger tiles Proccy was trying to avoid right there to get away from this fight. But he's got the fight. He's just going to run away from it. A lot of these fights are runnable, actually. And I never knew this growing up as a kid. I always thought you had to take every fight that you got into. But just like every other SNES JRPG with ATB systems, if you hit L and R at the same time and you hold it, that's buffering run input. You can definitely run. Proccy got into an unrunnable encounter here. The 3 bellbirds at the top, right next to our kill walla that says mountains are nice. You can avoid this fight by going through the center-ish area. Mountains are nice. This is the life. Everybody likes talking to this kid because it gives you a magic tab. That signals what we're getting to is the end of Denadoro Mountains right here. Meanwhile, averaen is hot on his heels. It's right at the base of Denadoro Mountains. Oh, but it looks like averaen's doing something a little bit different. It looks like averaen was actually just grinding out a fight. Now, what is averaen doing right here? He's got Magus, Luca, and Frog, and he's going towards Sunken Desert. Our first big piece of divergence right here. I have a feeling that averaen was actually looking for maybe Ice 2 on Magus, because every enemy in the Sunken Desert is weak to water. So we've got one runner going up Denadoro, ready to fight Masamune, and one runner down in the Sunken Desert, going to take on Retinite and grow that forest. Now, you see that Lightning 2 didn't do a whole lot of damage. That's because every character down here, every enemy down here, is also resistant to fire and lightning and shadow. 50% resistance to fire, lightning, and shadow. And now that is not vanilla. That is just something to add balance to this. Raster Cisa was noticing that people were clearing this area a little too early and decided to make it a little harder. But if you have water damage, it offers you a nice, quick one-shot option. I like this play from averaen an awful lot because this is a huge experience play, and even if it doesn't pan out for it, even if he doesn't get a huge piece of progression, this is an experience play. You get 1,000 experience for these 3 hexapod fights. You get potentially a top-tier drop from Retinite's core if you manage to beat the core in there, and a ton of treasure. You also get a shop that opens up because one of the monk women in the present that you can talk to in that little shrine that houses the busted robo, the old busted robo of 400 years, that woman normally sells you a bunch of hats, including one of my favorites as a kid, the sight cap. But in this, it's just another randomized shop, but it's a mid to high tier randomized shop. Now, unfortunately for this, averaen's Magus went down, so he doesn't get the tech points for the fight, which I think averaen really wanted those tech. That would have got him closer to Ice 2, and Ice 2 would be incredibly useful. He's going back to Proccy right here. Proccy just got through the Masamune and is now doing the joint fight, Masa and Mune. We can see here, one chop did a truckload of damage on Frog. Frog uses that slurp cut. Robo cranking out that rocket punch. 92 damage from that chop. It's pretty tough. It cannot two-shot Frog. He's playing it safe. He wants to make sure that he's got everybody topped up because of that wind attack, his yes indeed. This is a really tense fight. There's about 3,500 hit points for Masa and Mune. Meanwhile, averaen's looking for that Ice 2. Still taking those grind fights. These grind fights are stacking up, though. And you can see that the power of his party is just going up and up and up right now. Proccy took a few grind fights, and so isn't doing too shabby right now. And a Lapis, which is probably one of the most important early game healing items, heals everybody for 200. That takes care of all of the damage that was done by Masa and Mune's yes indeed. You see averaen making use of Flame Toss. Flame Toss, a highly underrated skill, especially early game. And this last fight should do it for averaen to get to Ice 2. None too soon. $116. It always seems to me that Masa and Mune increase their strength every time they do yes indeed. It always seems that way. And the longer this fight goes on, the harder he hits, and the harder he hits, the worse it gets for you. And averaen finishing off his fight. Does he get his Ice 2? Yes, he does. So averaen gets his Ice 2, and now it's going to be go, go, go down here. And Retinite is as good as dead. Ice 2 doesn't do any damage to Retinite, but it does make it so you almost can never miss. And it makes the other remaining 2 fights that averaen has down here just non-issues. And Proccy takes down the Masa and Mune fight under 30 minutes for all of what Proccy has done. This is some pretty good time right here. What kind of drop? We get an amulet drop from Masa and Mune, which is a huge drop. It is a full status protection accessory. So good. Very, very good, especially mid-game for a lot of those enemies that can inflict chaos. But let's see what the real reward is. Is it going to be a big piece of gear, like, say, a Robo's ribbon, which I'll talk about later? Is it going to be progression? Or is it going to be another gate to another dungeon? The Dreamstone. Oh, that is 2 pieces. 2 pieces of that go mode. The only thing that Proccy needs now in order to find his path to Lavos is the gate key. Now, the gate key is one of many key items that are still remaining, but what a pull. Being 1 step away from go mode. What is Proccy going to do right here? Let's find out. Now, averaen is doing something a little bit different than what I thought he was going to do. Did not commit to the Sunken Desert, which I don't understand this play, actually. But we'll see what he was doing. Maybe it was just a super grind that averaen was going. Maybe he forgot that he has Robo in the party and can actually do and complete the Sunken Desert. Proccy's going to take his magic-heavy Magus and is going to stick it to Hecarim. Hecarim has 2,000 hit points in this randomizer. Can only be hit by magic damage. Gets hit hard by magic damage. And everything in this cave offers a pretty good solid amount of tech points. You're going to see, I believe it's 25 tech points, 20 to 25 tech points for this fight. Each of your Weevils, I think it's the Evil Weevils or the Burrowers or whatever in the next screen, each of those are going to offer 5 apiece. So there's a screen that has 4 of them. That's going to give you 20 tech points. And that's going to be a big deal because what Proccy's looking for right here is he's looking for Dark Bomb. Dark Bomb is the next level for Magus. Magus has access to all 3 of the level 2 elemental spells, as you might know. And Dark Bomb has a higher power rating than those 3 level 2 elemental spells. And that higher power rating is going to make for a much, much quicker Hecarim fight. So instead of 6, 7, 8 turns, you're looking at 4, which definitely helps cut down that time. And it's a great upfront investment in order to get your Magus to the point where you can start one-shotting a great multitude of enemies, including potential enemies for a grind fight. And we'll get to the grind fight in a little bit. So averaen's going to continue going up Denadoro Mountains. Actually avoids the 3 bird bell fight. Bellbird? Bird bell? Bellbird? And does not talk to the kill walla, does not get that magic tab, does not feel it's worth the time, but definitely feels that the speed tab is worth the time investment. And boy, do I agree. Especially if you're going to use Luca a whole bunch, because Luca starts with 8 speed, and your speed doesn't get increased by level. averaen's going to go up, do his Masa and Mune fight. Now, what's interesting about this is that while they took divergent paths, averaen is not too far behind Proccy in relation to the amount of time that it took for Denadoro Mountains. Maybe made up a few minutes here and there, and a lot of that had to do with the levels that averaen is at, which is 14 and 15, whereas Proccy was at level 10 on Ruin. Everybody loves getting those characters up to star speed. One of my favorite things. But speed is a little wonky in this game, and the more that I've played Jets of Time Randomizer, the more I've understood how speed works in this game. The game kind of looks at speed in classes or groups. Yes, another tick of speed will always help, but the game kind of goes 13, 14, 15, you're really fast. Star, you're really fast. 12, 11, 10, you're kind of fast. 9, 8, 7, 6, you're kind of slow. And then 5 and below, it's non-existent really, but 5 and below is, oh yikes, you need to start doing some cardio, bro. Now, something that averaen is showing off there that is actually vanilla, you can use Hypno Wave to put Masa and Mune to sleep. They are susceptible to the host of status, including slow, stop, sleep, and confuse, or they call it chaos. And if you do that, if one of them is still afflicted by one of those statuses, they can't do their joint attack. So Procky's going to take this last fight here in Hecarim Cave. Still looking for that Dark Bomb. See if he gets it. Do his tech point calculations. There it is. Bada bing, bada boom. There's Dark Bomb, and that's going to make for a real fast fight. Gonna go down, lay down a shelter because he's got no MP with Magus, and whoop, now he does. He's got a Dark Helm and a Nova Armor on Robo. What a great combination there. Now you can see over an averaen stream, 255 damage with Fire 2 is not a whole lot coming out of Magus. But 503 on Procky's stream from Dark Bomb, boy, that just tells you exactly what you're in for and why getting Dark Bomb early is so important. That is a doubling of magic power right there. As I said before, Hecarim has 2,000 hit points. So you're looking at about 3 rounds of this, where you go Dark Bomb, Water, Laser Spin. Dark Bomb, Water, Laser Spin, Dark Bomb, and it's over. We'll see what we get out of this. Monster drops and boss drops are a little different in this. Boss drops are very, very high tier. They are high to top tier drops, depending on the location and depending on the randomization. Saw Nova Armor come out for the Zombor fight. Let's see what comes out for this Hecarim fight. We're about done with it. There it is. Fried. You get a power tab. Tabs can be dropped from these fights too. Power tab is a little underwhelming. If I want a tab drop, I want a speed tab drop. All day, every day. But one more strength is one more strength point. Now, you notice you didn't get anything from the fight directly. Because of the way event coding is. Because of the way event coding happens in this, we had to get the actual drop from the boss somewhere else. So it was dropped in place of where you would normally get the tab invest right here. So this is where your key item is. And it is the Prism Shard. Procky just encountered a fun little glitch that we still don't understand how it works or why it happens. But sometimes when you're coming out of the whirlpool, your characters just kind of sit there and go, we ain't moving, man. Easiest way to deal with that, save, which you can, reset, and then reopen the file, and it shoves you on over to the island, and then everything is hunky. And depending on skill, 2.5 hours is what you're looking at as an average. I tend to average about 2:15 to 2 hours. The hallowed sub 2 hour seed is something that everybody who runs this game is definitely looking for. Everybody's got their splits set up so that they're gearing up towards that sub 2 hour seed. But yeah, you're looking at about 2:30 on the average. Some of the more unkind ones can go about 245. Now, Procky's going down here to the Sunken Desert, has Ice too, has the host of things from Magus. So all of these fights are going to be non-issues. Ice 2 is going to wipe him out in one shot. And Averaen's going to go do Hecarim Cave. So he's definitely trailing Procky right now. Let me tell you about the Prism Shard. Prism Shard is pretty much exactly what you think it is. It's that thing that you get from the Rainbow Shell. It unlocks the King's Trial in 1000 AD. You talk to the king in 600 AD, and he tells his guard to store the Rainbow Shell. Then you go over to 1000 AD, and there's the King's Trial. It requires Marley to be in your party in order to activate it. So right now, none of our runners can activate the Prism Shard because we need Marley in our party. And we have yet to find Marley. But behind the Prism Shard, you can find yet another key item. And if you find yourself a Moonstone and you're upgrading it to a Sunstone, which requires an awful lot of key items to get to, but you can create another key item from the Sunstone with Melchior in the basement once you have finished with the Rainbow Shell Trial. There's that age-old debate. How do you say Marley's name? Is it Marl or is it Marley? When I was a kid, I always said Marl. And then I heard somebody who spoke Japanese say Marley, and I went, oh, I must have been saying it wrong my entire life. And then it just stuck. And then I found out that, well, it's not exactly a consensus. And there are plenty of people all over the world, it doesn't matter what nationality you are, that say it both ways. So I don't always know how it's supposed to be said. I say Marley, people say Marl. It doesn't matter. We know who we're talking about. We're talking about Princess Nadia. It's not even her name in the first place. So Procky's finishing up the grind fights down here. It is going fast, and Procky's actually going to clear Sunken Desert. We actually get a chance to see this Retinite fight. Some good consumable items, a Tabin Vest. If you have Luca, that's nice. +2 speed, 50% fire guard. Nothing wrong with that. Procky's taking a look at his gear. He's thinking to himself, what do I want here for this fight? Wants a little bit more defense, a little bit more beef on Frog. We're going to heal up, it looks like. And then he's going to go get some. And now we got side-to-side boss fights right here. Averaen is fighting Hecarim. Procky is fighting Retin. Now, Averaen does not have Dark Bomb. Chose instead to take the quicker way, which didn't allot him enough tech points to obtain Dark Bomb. But we've got magic on all three characters, and that's going to make up the difference, I think. See, Magus is only doing about 260, 270 damage with Fire 2. And then Luca and Frog are following up with Water and Fire. But I think it's going to get him to the point where you can potentially 3-round this fight anyway. Two different strategies, both relatively viable, and that's one of the things that Rastor Cecil was attempting to do with this randomizer in the first place, was make a lot of viable and customizable parties. Make it so that no one party is a clear and definitive winner over any other party, save for a few strategies that you would normally use given equipment and that sort of thing. We can see that we've got two different parties. They're similar in the sense that both have Frog and Magus, but one is using Robo, a very heavy physical fighter. One of them is using Luca, a very heavy magic damage fighter. And we get to see how these pan out both ways. And this game has all sorts of cool combo techs between members, and as a matter of fact, we're going to see the value of dual and triple techs, well, probably just dual techs, because we got a Magus in our party, and there are no triple techs with Magus that don't involve stone. But we're going to see some of those dual techs coming out right now. Averaen's through his Hecarim fight. Going to be rewarded with an underwhelming Prison Shard. I see Retinite sticking it to Proccy over there. And I never knew until recently that you could yeet any part of Retinite like that. But there it is. Whackola! Retinite goes down, 4,800 experience, and a Tavern Suit as the drop. So Averaen would actually really like to fight Retinite right now. A Tavern Suit being some great defense for 80% fire resistance, plus 3 speed. It is quite a good thing. Averaen forgot to check the snail stop, but it's not going to bite him in the butt. Because it's just the tools. It's just Tavern Desert, that's right. And there's, with Robo in your party, you can activate that once you've beaten Retinite. It closes up Sunken Desert, so you can't visit it again. And we get to see what the key item is that you get for this. And we get to say, hey, Robo, meet Robo. Ooh, we've got Lapises, we've got Mid-Tonics, we've got Ruby Armor. That is a loaded shop, and Ruby Armor can be very, very important. But let's see what Proccy ends up being forced to do here. See what our key item is. 45 minutes in, and we still don't have a clear and definitive direction to go. Averaen's considering that tab invest. And we get a Chrono trigger. We get a Chrono trigger from... Oh, no, we get a Hero Medal, excuse me. Not a Chrono trigger, we get a Hero Medal. So we actually still don't know what we get. A Hero Medal is a funny thing because all it does is unlocks this treasure chest in Frog's Burrow. But side thing is, you actually get to see... I love Marley dropping down screaming. You get to see who is the reward for forging the Masamune. You don't get that character. Oh! You don't get that character unless you forge the Masamune and then show it to him. But Proccy doesn't care because he found the gate key. That is go mode, ladies and gentlemen. That will do quite nicely, and that's the path to Lavos. So Proccy's got to unlock the end of time with the gate key and prehistory. But this is a jet seed and a half. So Proccy is looking like he's going to go into Guardia Castle. Ah, Proccy is showing us some stuff, is what he's doing. Proccy's going to show us a little bit of fun. So, we told you that the pendant unlocks the way to the future. So you can't do this trial scene without the pendant. Whoever your party leader is the person who gets captured for the trial scene. It's not just Chrono. In fact, if you don't have Chrono in your party, it can't be. So, there he is. Proccy changed his party leader to Frog. And now Frog is under suspicion for stealing the royal pen. And now you can see where normally you would see Chrono. There's Frog, imprisoned, and he's going to do the prison escape scene. Now, there is value in doing this because Proccy has go mode, but doesn't have a whole lot of gear. Has a Nova armor, maybe an amulet, but actually, no, probably doesn't have an amulet because, oh yeah, definitely has an amulet. Did Denadoro Mountains. But that's it. no, doesn't have 3 pieces of status protection, and not a whole lot of thumb in part 2. Probably rocking a stone arm for Robo right now, so I think what Procky's doing here is he is unlocking the power of the pendant as well. You can do this scene and then immediately get dropped into the future. You have access to your epoch again. You don't have to go back for it. But you have access to 2 of the 3 big doors that lead to treasure chests in the future. And the 3rd one is just behind Guardian if you really care to do a boss fight to get a 3rd one. But there's also all of those sealed chests in the past and present that you have access to as well. So I think what Procky's doing here is making a play for gear. And I actually kind of like the play because you've got early go mode, and this is definitely a play not just to show something off to the runners, to all of the viewers out there, but it's a way to show off a little bit of what you can do with gear, how you can customize all of these characters. So averaen's done with his Retinite fight. He's going to be rewarded with a hero medal, which is always the question mark, but that's going to lead him to go mode. You have to have Robo in your party. He's going to have Omega Flare party. Every 100% speedrunner's favorite party right there. Mega Sluka Robo. And now, I never knew this as a kid, but you can actually skip those mask fights. Just walk through them at a certain point, and there they are. Yeah, I feel bad for the guards here. They're just doing their job, but man. It's hard to contend with a giant sword-wielding frog coming up behind you and just giving you the old uppercut. I believe the cats actually signify the eras that have been unlocked. Because you've also got Kilwalla Specchio over there in the end for the end of time. Future, present, past, Dark Ages, prehistory. So as averaen gets his reward, Procky is doing his Dragon Tank fight. Now, entered this whole sequence at roughly 47 minutes. So this was only about an investment of 5 minutes. It's not too shabby. With Magus with Dark Bomb, it's very, very hard to... It's very hard to root against anyone except Dragon Tank in this fight. It's gonna be a shellacking. So I don't think averaen has actually gone down to cash in that hero medal. I'm wondering if averaen actually remembers to cash in that hero medal. Yeah, there it is. averaen's like, wait, whoa, I gotta do something first. He's gonna be very happy that he did that too, because that's gonna be go mode for him. So there's the final end of the escape sequence, and Procky is doing this cutscene right here as averaen watches Marley scream. Ah! Averaen gets rewarded with the gate key and go mode. So both of our runners have their Path to Lavos now. And there's Proccy opening up the first treasure door. As you get Prism Specs, Nova Armor, and Sunshades. Holy God. Well, ding, 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 we have a winner. We have full status protection, and we've got amazing damage enhancement. Prism Specs increase your damage output by 50%. Sunshades increase your damage output by 25%, and that's physical or magic damage. We got a full tonic, and we got a Doom Sickle. So we also have a top-tier weapon for Megas. Boy, that might actually be the difference here. A couple of Nova Armors and an Amulet might be enough for Proccy. I think Proccy's going to go, yep. Proccy is definitely going to go back to the present and do the end of time, as averaen actually makes up a little bit of time, chooses not to do the future scene, the pendant trial scene. And they're both going to be in end of time at roughly the same time. averaen's a little under-geared right now, but has a little bit more experience. Proccy has a little less experience, has way more gear. This is still anybody's race right here. And there's averaen doing the 3 circles that we all know and love. You still have to do this in order to get magic learned on your characters. And averaen's going to benefit by this, from this by a lot, as Luca is going to be able to learn Flare, which is arguably the strongest spell in this particular version of the game. Also has the ability to learn Heal from Frog. Heal, Frog Squash. You can get Frog Flare as a dual tech from that. And averaen's going to go back out. So the Epoch is still where you left it. Parked just outside this Village of Magic. But in order to get to the end of time, you had to go to prehistory, and the fact that you made it to prehistory opens it up via the Epoch. Now, prehistory doesn't have a whole lot. It has a shop, and it has a key item check in Reptite Layer, and it also has a character check at the top of Dactyl Nest, where you would normally get Ayla for the second time. And that's how you would fly over to Chrono Layer. Now we see a little bit of an issue with averaen right here. Averaen is looking at his gear going, what on earth do I sell? Sell the ruby armor? He sells the ruby armor. Going for a mermaid cap instead of a Tabin help. So he wants that real solid, beefy damage reduction on Luca, because Luca is objectively the physically weakest character in this randomizer, and potentially in the game. Now, averaen could have skipped that fight with just a little bit more precise movement to the right, but it is a runnable fight, as are most of the fights. Definitely runnable. And you still have to go down here now, where you would normally be rescuing Kino. Is where you put in the Dreamstone, and the Dreamstone is what unlocks the mouth of the dinosaur skeleton thing, to the left side of the entrance room in Chrono Layer. But averaen doesn't have time for any of these fights. The fights don't exactly give you a whole lot of experience either, so it's not a big deal that you take these fights. And also, we're looking for tech points more than anything, and these fights do not give any tech points. Now, Proccy is doing, oh my goodness, Proccy is doing a little bit more looting, going after those sealed chests. Gets a Tabin suit and another Prism Specs. That Prism Specs, double Prism Specs and Sunshades, means that Proccy is going to be doing an insane amount of damage right now. So averaen over there Accidentally got seen by a cave ape. But it's gonna take the fight. Meanwhile, Proccy continues to loot the sealed chests. And says, you know what? A couple of prism specs, an amulet, sunshades, I'm done. Let's go. Let's get some. He's gonna go up and check the shop first, which is a pretty common play. You never know what you're gonna find in these shops. And it's gonna be rewarded a little bit. Getting some mid tonics. Now, Proccy's got go mode, but he's still sort of dithering a little bit. Hasn't quite decided what to do. Looks like he wants to shop just a little bit more before he takes on the big man. He's gonna sell out. Five wall rings. You can see that gold starting to stack up there. Doesn't need power rings anymore. Definitely has all of the damage output you could possibly want with a couple of prism specs. But he was looking for those megalics. Ladies and gentlemen, Proccy is set. And this is the difference that we see here. Proccy took a little bit more time to get set up for endgame. As averaen is just kind of doing what I would have done, which is storm the castle. But here we go. We see prism specs, sunshades. We got all sorts of stuff. Nova armor, doom sickle. This team is stacked. Now, over in averaen's stream, we see him start to go deeper into Chrono layer. This is a sequence of 3 fights that you can actually avoid if you just run directly across to the left out of that entrance. You have to hesitate a couple of seconds so that you don't touch any of the 3 reptites that are walking around, but their opening moves are always the same. And it looks like we've got a little bit of a grind going here, actually. He's going to take this fight over and over and over again. They're all clustered up for him for Dark Bomb, and Dark Bomb one-shots them, so averaen says, you know, I feel a little bit more comfortable with a little bit more experience. I'm going to go after it. 600 experience and 9 tech points. I think that he's going for something specific. I don't really know what he's going for that's so specific. And there are better sources of tech points in here, but it looks like this is more of a quick shot, sort of, I can do this in one move and be done, and it's safe. Now he's gonna go over. Now, if you take that fight, you actually have to take this fight, unless you reload the room from the other side. I always forget which way to go where Proccy is right now. Yeah, Proccy skips the fights entirely. Now they're both in the same room. Another Mega Elixir for Proccy. That's 4. That's more than enough. We see Proccy walking around and didn't get into a single encounter there. There is a way that you can walk in this room that avoids encounters entirely. averaen clipped one of those encounter tiles. Decided to slow himself down a little bit to make sure that he didn't clip any of the other encounter tiles, and now he's totally fine. And discovers the big skip right there. That is a skip that I actually have a tough time with. You can skip all of those encounters right there if you go in through a very specific point in there. Gets him right to the Nizbel 2 fight. we can see that Proccy has caught up a bunch and is geared up a ton for this. I'm really liking Proccy's chances right now. You're going to see the real tangible effect of those Nova armors, prism specs, top-tier weapons, having access to Dark Bomb. We get to talk about the Nizable 2 fight. This fight is a little bit different than normal in Vanilla. In Vanilla, you are required to shock him in order to lower his defense. He's resistant to most other elements. However, in this, because there's no guarantee that you're going to have access to lightning damage, Raster Cease decided to make him susceptible to all magic damage. If you hit him with shock like you're supposed to, it will trigger an electrocution. However, that electrocution also adds the benefit of negating his defenses entirely. So adding a little bit of balance, if you do the fight as intended, you're actually more likely to get through the fight quicker. But if you do the fight just magic damage style, you don't have to deal with any of the lightning. And we've got Healbot coming out with that heal beam. It doesn't do a whole lot, but it does plenty for what Proccy's trying to do. Meanwhile, averaen's doing something similar, using single target magic attacks. It's going to take a little bit longer. His Dark Bomb is doing 625, whereas Proccy's was doing over 1,000. And there's the effects of Prism Specs right there. That added 50% damage is massive. And it catapults Proccy into the lead right here. Proccy gets nipped by that encounter. That's a pretty hard one to do. Coming out of that gate, you want to make a check mark all the way down to the bottom of the screen, and then check mark all the way back up. It's kind of a 90-degree angle. Averaen gets through the fight as well. The runners are neck and neck. This is a slobber knocker of a fight. Averaen decides to take the save, take the heal. And he's going to motor. Proccy got the encounter. This is a Pterosaur and then Pterosaur times 2 encounter. If you walk down a specific set of pixels, you can avoid these encounters and go right up into Azala's chamber. However, unlike Vanilla, that fight is runnable. Oh, averaen got the fight too. Now here we have something a little bit different for you all. Azala Black Tyranno. An added feature of this randomizer is randomized hit points, randomized moves, and some randomized power for Azala and Black Tyranno. You won't exactly see the same Black Tyranno that you would normally see. Azala has 2,000 hit points in this spot and is susceptible to magic damage, and that's about it, which is fairly standard, fairly vanilla. And Black Tyranno does the same thing script-wise with the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown, and also has to drop its defenses in order for you to get in there. But let's watch and see what Black Tyranno does here. And we have Laser Nose Black Tyranno. So Black Tyranno sneezes and some of the future comes out. Now, why was this added? Because it's a little bit unexpected. You always know in vanilla that you're going to deal with shadow damage, with the fire damage from Black Tyranno, and you're going to deal with some physical damage from Azala. Teleportation, and telekinesis, psychokinesis, I think it's called. And those are all physical attacks from Azala. But it was getting a little benign, this fight, because usually people would just throw on some red vest, set up, and it would be whatever. You could just throw on berserkers and then walk away for 5 minutes, come back, and Black Tyranno's dead. Now, you don't know what element is coming at you. And it makes this fight really, really tense, and you have to prepare for it. We got runners neck and neck. Averaen pops a Lapis, trying to take out Azala right there. And there's Azala break. There's Azala's 2k hit points down. Now as proccy goes after Black Tyranno, Averaen is waiting for him to drop his defenses, and he does. We just saw a frog miss with Slurp Cut. That is a thing that can happen. Hit chances are based on level and your hit stat. I'm willing to bet that, according to the vanilla statistic, our runners are at fairly low levels compared to what the game expects you to be at. And that's going to be true for pretty much the entire run. Recommended levels are pretty high in vanilla. A lot of speedrunners look at the recommended levels and go, "Ha! Please." We definitely do that here too. The rebalancing kind of made it so that you will never see recommended. Or if you do, you've spent way too much time grinding, or you got a really unfortunate seed that took you around and forced a whole bunch of experience at you. And we see proccy doing a little bit of strategy right here, doing that double tech. You see Bubble Snap, I believe, right there, and Bubble Snap doing about 1,000. And we see the AoE attack coming out. Oh, it doesn't kill anybody, though. Throws down a Mega Elixir. That is a strong, strong AoE attack. Now, whenever Black Tyranno does that AoE attack, which normally would be a Fire Breath move, his defenses go back up. And he gets 1 or 2 shots off. Usually it is he eats somebody for 75% of their hit points. Or breathes fire on them, but that is, of course, random here. Averaen's at a lower level than proccy right now, so let's see how he handles this. This could be Rip, actually. Oh, no! Averaen goes down, and that is rough stuff. That is rough stuff. Now, that save point right there, that save point did him some favors. Got him right outside the fight again. He's going to be hard-pressed to get through this fight. Meanwhile, proccy takes it down. And you can see the difference right there. One wipe can take it down. And the randomized AoE attacks is really, really, really tough. It makes it really hard to do anything to counteract it. That AoE attack that you saw, that is a non-elemental AoE attack. Non-elemental, so you cannot absorb it, you cannot mitigate it with anything except magic defense. Really rough stuff to deal with. So proccy's going to see this cutscene. This cutscene lasts a little bit of time. Meanwhile, Averaen looks like he's going to take the Pterosaur encounter. Oh, no. No, it's going to run. Yep, runs away. So after that cutscene, you can go into the crater where once the Tyranno lair was. And just like in vanilla, transports you to this cave. In this cave right here, you are in 12,000 BC, and it is go time. So proccy's going to do something here a little bit divergent. He's going to go into the Earthbound Cave. Because there's a shop right there. And this shop is fairly decent tier. There's an amulet for sale. There's a Gloom Helm for sale. Don't know that he wants an amulet per se because he's got those prism specs. And he's got Nova armor on 2 characters too, so it's not like he needs the resistance, but definitely was eyeing those elixirs. A Zodiac cape can only be worn by female characters. Doesn't have any female characters, so doesn't particularly care. Just stocking up on a few of those real top-tier consumable items. Hyper Ethers, elixirs, that sort of thing. Has 3 Mega Elixirs already. Definitely is set up for this. And you can see right now that a little bit of prep, just a few minutes of prep, is what separated proccy and averaen right here from win or lose in the Azala Black Tyranno fight. And we are at 1 hour and 13 minutes, and proccy is heading towards a final dungeon. And we are looking at potentially a sub-2-hour seed right here. Oh, we have haste helms. So there are 2 shops available right here. The second one up top was added by Rasterseeker. Sort of a shout out to FF5 in the underwater cave. That dwarf that you talk to in different places and ends up being different shops. The Kejar Nu will actually end up being separate shops as well. And proccy's got one thing on his mind right there, and that is haste helms. Gets himself 60,000 gold, and that's 1 haste helm. Says maybe that's enough. Takes a free heal down in that lower right-hand corner. And boom, zoom, going up to Ocean Palace. Well, we're going up to the palace, Zeal Palace, which will transport us down to Ocean Palace. Well, we've got one more hurdle to go over, and that is the Golem fight. So normally you would fight Dalton up in this area. You don't fight Dalton. You fight the Golem. Just as you would in the first part, the first time you come here. Except for this fight is not scripted to wreck you. This fight you're supposed to win. And meanwhile, we got averaen taking another crack at that Black Tyranno Azala fight. Has his Azala break. Luca's got 425 hit points. That will actually get him through this fight. I think Magus is still probably in a bit of bad shape. There is a potential for Luca and Frog to make it through this this AoE attack. And that will actually allow just enough for him to revive, perhaps revive Magus, heal back everybody, and then take him down with the second round. Now here we see proccy doing a little something that we call swinging the pendulum. You understand the Golem's function in Chrono Trigger. That function has not changed. If you use an attack on the Golem, that attack will be mirrored in type by the Golem. So you can see the copycat skill that was used in response to Dark Bomb was Copy's Shadow. That is an AoE shadow damage attack when it comes to Golem's turn. And every time it gets hit by something, it changes what technique it uses. And it goes back to the first part of its script in that. Why this is important is because the first part of its script for water and for fire is a single target, very weak attack. And as long as you can keep him doing those very weak single target attacks, he's not going to do anything bad. This is a common strategy when you don't have any semblance of status infliction. Another thing that people do is Hypno Wave or Provoke in order to inflict statuses, because the Golems are susceptible to the host of status ailments, just like Masa and Mune. You just have to make sure that You have enough hit points to survive the Blurp copying Dalton moment. First golem, that's about 100 hit points AoE. Here we go into the deep, deep depths of Ocean Palace. Meanwhile, Averaen gets hit by the AoE attack. Oh, Luca stays on her feet, and with a considerable amount of hit points. So it looks like Averaen can get through this fight. There's going to be a little bit of healing. Just a little bit of healing. Doesn't really know what to do here. Probably going to lay down that Lapis. And yeah, there it is. Now, Proccy doesn't exactly have a whole lot of level in here. Has plenty of gear. Runs into another Mega Elixir, so that's 4 again. Get that Undersea Palace music. This is some of the best music in the game. This, Black Omen, the Kingdom of Zeal, all of the music in this game is fantastic, and you really get good, solid instances of it, too. Proccy has no time for looting, does not care, is going straight down into what we call the stairwell. Now Proccy's thinking. What's Proccy thinking about? Proccy is thinking about grinding. This is our favorite grind spot in Ocean Palace, right here. Why? Because all of these fights give a ton of experience. This first fight of 4 gives 2,600 experience. And it gives 80 tech points. This is my favorite grind fight right here. Right at the top of the stairwell. 2,680 tech points. And this is how I choose to level up in Ocean Palace. You go back up, and then you go back down. You rinse and you repeat until you're at a sufficient enough level. I tend to go to level 30, sometimes 32. With this party is very strong. This party's got a lot of durability, too. I might actually stop at 28. Might stop at 28 and take the fights as they come. There's the other AoE attack coming out again on Averaen's screen. It takes down Magus and Frog, but still on his feet. And this fight's a slog from Averaen right here. Heal up. Gonna lay down those mid-ethers. Boy. Frog gets munched. 179. About 75%. And the one thing that's important about this grind fight that Proccy is doing is you want to make sure that you can, at the very least, take out the Thrashers. Those are the guys with the poles on the top and bottom. If you can't, if you damage one of them, they have a chance to counter with an AoE shadow damage attack that can also have a chance to confuse your party. Really, really, really annoying. Oh, Averaen gets through. Averaen gets through. God, it's so good to see that. So good to see Averaen get through that fight. It was a tough, nail-biting slog of a fight. Taken one wipe, but Averaen is still through to the Dark Ages at 1 hour, 21 minutes. Definitely get it done. Averaen even has a chance for a sub-2-hour seed. This is as jet of a jet seed as it gets, given the spirit of the name, Jets of Time. And now those mages have 750 hit points, so Dark Mist is one-shotting them. And this grind is well on its way to being done. Taking a look at his levels, 29's around. Still doesn't have Dark Matter, still doesn't have Shock. He's got 449 tech points to get to Shock. I don't know that Proccy's going to hit Shock or Dark Matter at all here. At least not in this grind. Averaen goes through. Now he's at 12,000 BC, just like Proccy. Again, very underleveled, very undergeared. Oh, Proccy says enough is enough. I'm gone. That is enough. Level 30 is plenty for Proccy, and he is ready to rock and roll. It is on. Proccy doesn't avoid this particular fight. It's okay. It's okay. He'll take the 2,000 experience and what I believe is 50 tech points? Maybe 40 tech points? 2k experience, 50 tech points. Yep. Now, this is an unavoidable encounter, this one coming up with the Omicron that shoots fireballs that turn into enemies. And averaen is going to take a look at Enhasa. And that's little Janus, or Janus, however you say his name. Child Magus facing Magus. And one of my favorite little glitches is Moonwalking Magus right there. See him coming out of a cutscene like that. Does the moonwalk. So it looks like averaen is interested in those full tonics. He's going to sell for a bunch. And Proccy, meanwhile, goes into one of the most infamous parts about this, the elevator fights. First fight, totally runnable. I love Moonwalking Magus. These next 3 fights unrunnable because you're trapped on an elevator. First fight relatively easy, the Jin Bargeist Thrasher encounter. You AoE, you do enough. If you kill the Bargeist, it actually destroys his shield around the Jin, and you can take him down. And that demon hit does double damage to him. Double damage out of a crit. Quad damage is really nice. 1256 is plenty to take him down. That's fight 1. Fight 2. You got 2 mages, 2 lashers, and a scouter. If you hit that scouter with anything other than lightning damage, it counters with an AoE lightning attack, which we're about to see right now. Proccy has decided that he'd rather eat the counter than focus on the scouter. He doesn't want to deal with all of the other enemies. Each of these scouts and scouters have 300 hit points, or 250 hit points. And so physical damage is the thing. Now we've got a little bit of a sticky wicket right here. We've got the 2 scouter, 2 blue scout, 2 red scout. How do you take care of this when you don't have access to the correct element? Well, first off, you eat a lot of damage, and these guys can be really annoying. But Uzi Punch just barely crusts that 250 damage mark, takes one of them down. You've got single target water damage coming out of Frog right there, 500 damage. And then you're just going to take a swing. Take a swing with Magus. You rinse and repeat that bad boy. It's gonna look pretty good. Now Proccy is all set up. Takes out that lightning scout. Takes out the water scout, leaves just the fire scouts remaining, and those red scouts susceptible to the fire 2 that's coming out. And that's gonna take it down. A very nicely played, very well executed 6 scout. That's the fight that can wreck you if they all happen to go after the same character, and it can get real frustrating. I know I get frustrated at it. And that's the bottom of the elevator fight. We've only got a couple of more things here as averaen goes into the golem fight. Now, fun fact, you can avoid this encounter. You saw Proccy avoid at least triggering the encounter on the front side. If you move correctly, you can trigger the counter on the you can avoid the trigger on the backside as well. Proccy triggered the counter on the backside. You can get around these encounters. Let's see if he gets around these encounters now. Avoids it on one side. Nope. Got trapped. It's all right. It's all right, because it is also a runnable encounter. It doesn't really stack up a whole lot of time. As averaen goes into the golem fight again, had to re-equip everybody. So that single target fight damage is what you really want to avoid from the golem, because you see it did 800 damage. Oh, as Proccy gets himself a Terra Arm, and all of a sudden making Robo incredibly useful. Now we went with a little bit of an interesting strategy on averaen's side. Averaen went with Black Vest, bought 3 Black Vests for this very fight, is going to make sure that the pendulum ends with Dark Bomb. That way, Golem's AoE shadow damage attack will be absorbed, making this fight essentially free for him. Meanwhile, on Proccy's stream, we've got the dual Golem fight over here, and Golem Twins is really, really difficult. They hit like trucks. You can see right here, they're going to hit so hard. This AoE shadow attack does 332. Just barely didn't get it off in time. Now Proccy's in a little bit of trouble here. Gotta re-trigger that pendulum if he wants to make sure that it doesn't come out with an AoE ice attack. This is a really difficult encounter to get around. It's not a very cheesable encounter, too. Could very well be potential for averaen to catch back up. Now, knowledge of this makes Proccy go after him with fire, which is a great call, making the next part of the pendulum single target fire damage instead of single target or multi-target ice damage. Takes a moment to recover. And now he's just going to go back and forth between fire and water, it's like. Now, the one thing you want to make sure to avoid is ripping from those burps. Because the burps only did 100 damage, as you can see on averaen's side. AoE, 100 damage. And that's non-elemental damage, too. But on Proccy's side, each of those burps is going to do about 180 to 220 non-elemental AoE. Really hard to contend with back-to-back if you don't have the hit points to do it. Right now, he's sitting at a pretty dangerous level. 482 on Megas, 435 on Robo, and 419 on Fraud. Still keeping that single target coming out. Now, if you're good enough, which I'm not, but if you're good enough, you can damage count. Each of these guys has 8,000, 9,000 hit points, the golems. Do not quote me on that, please. Oh, didn't quite get that attack off in time, and that's going to be rough. Oh, that's going to be really rough. The problem with this is that lightning doesn't have a single target attack. Uh-oh. That's ripped. That's ripped from Proccy right there. Boom. So as I said before, fire and ice are the ones that really, really, really matter in this golem setup. Because those are the ones that have an every other attack. Shadow and lightning don't. Your shadow attack is always going to be an AoE shadow attack. Your lightning attack, it's always going to be an AoE lightning attack. Fire, ice, and physical alternate. Fire and ice alternate between single target, multi-target. And your physical damage one alternates from a fractional damage single target to a insane, you can't deal with it at all, physical damage attack. You don't want to land on that second attack for any of them. But it's really risky to land on lightning or shadow against these guys because their AoE attacks are incredibly strong. And you can see right there, they do so much damage. They do so much damage. You can see right there. Got to make sure to heal up. Now we see on averaen's side, part of the problem with doing damage to everything and not killing the Thrasher is he ate an AoE counter right there. Oh, Proccy eats an AoE. Oh, eats a back-to-back AoE, and that's going to be another reset. Proccy's having a heck of a time with this. We're going to take 3 on this Golem Twins fight right here. Let that go. And now he's going to set up the pendulum again. There's your Dark Mist. And there's your Shock. Those are the dangerous ones. He's going to end with your Water 2 AoE. And that's going to yield single target ice attacks. As averaen has busted on through to the other side. Hot on Proccy's heels right here. He's not close, but he can get to it. You see the damage difference right here. Proccy with a Prism Specs doing somewhere in the vein of 750 AoE, whereas averaen's doing 450 AoE, 440 AoE. It's going to be a little bit harder for averaen. Looking at his option, really doesn't want to take another shot. He's going to go after one of the mages instead. And this is where knowledge of your hit point levels for monsters is really, really crucial. Because if averaen had stopped for a moment and thought, probably would have been like, everything was one away from a death with another Dark Mist. Probably could get away with just Dark Mist to Dark Mist. But you want that Dark Mist to do at least 500 damage, because that's how much damage the Lashers take to die. All right, so we get back-to-back blurps on Proccy's stream. But Frog and Megas survive, and there it is. 4,000 experience, a bunch of tech points. Megas learns Dark Matter, and that's the big one right there. He's level 32 going into what is going to be the final fight, as averaen takes an AoE Confuse count. In fact, takes 2 of them. And there's the problem. Dealt damage to both of them. So they both get a counter. Oh, and an unfortunate shot right there against Megas. And now we get to see endgame right here. This is a really low-leveled... well, not really. It's a slightly low-leveled party. Level 32, 31, 32. It's on the lower side of ready for Lavos. So we do this cutscene with Zeal, talking to everybody, and Scala in front of the Mammon machine. And we are face to face with Lavos Shell. Now, we don't have to do any of these refights that you had to do in vanilla. You don't have to do the gauntlet, as it were. It gets right to it. You got 10,000 hit points to do worth of damage on the face. And the script is always the same. Destruction rains from the heavens. Area of effect physical damage. Next, you're going to get Chaotic Zone, which inflicts chaos on everybody who doesn't have protection, and a little bit of damage, somewhere in the vein of 60 to 80. Then you're going to get an AoE non-elemental magic attack, and that's the one that hurts bad. Rinse and repeat. I believe every third turn, he takes an actual physical shot on one. So there's your Chaotic Zone right there. We're about to see the non-named, non-elemental magic attack. Uzi Punch, one of my favorites. 1549, love it. Oh, we're not going to see that attack because the Lavos shell is down and we are inside the shell on Procky's stream right now. And we are into the Lavos tentacles fight and then the Lavos core fight. Into the shell at 1 hour, 40 minutes flat. Take some time to take a look at what he's got. He's gonna lay down a save and he's gonna go get some. Now, averaen's doing the grind. Has finally got Line Bomb, which is going to inflict damage on everybody. Oh, except for he can't use it if he's got Lock on Frog, but that's okay. One heal takes care of the job. Here comes Line Bomb. Boom. And that'll do. It's not an efficient grind, but it's definitely effective. So, here's Doors of Doom. Lasers from the chest. Good, solid AoE damage. Here we go. We have to get rid of the arms. And what signals his center spot being vulnerable is Obstacle. When you see Obstacle come out, that means that the center has dropped its defenses. You can go ham. He usually doesn't do that unless you drop down the arm, or if you're in the third round of the arm attacks. Now, arm attack comes out. One-shot physical damage hits really hard. Everybody's still standing, though. Dark Matter for 2302. And that takes care of the left side. Now, you got to get rid of the right side, too, because one of the things that happens when you only leave one arm remaining is something called Protective Seal, which disables your defense against status alien. He took out that arm before he could get Protective Seal, and it's on. Now he's got to wait. Here comes Obstacle. Obstacle hits. It's all right. You only got 10k worth of damage that you have to do to this guy. And there's 1543 right there. Shadow Slay comes out. That's a precursor to Flame Battle. Flame Battle is a precursor to Shadow Doom Blaze, which is the big one. I don't think we're going to see Shadow Doom Blaze, though. Doing an awful lot of damage with that Uzi Punch and that Dark Matter. I think one more round of that is probably going to do it for Mr. Dark Matter is an expensive spell. 20 magic points to use. That's 16 to use Uzi Punch. I think Procky's been damage counting, though, because it looks like... Oh, there's Shadow Doomblade. This is a very strong and dangerous attack. It's not going to rip him, though, I don't... Yeah, it does a lot, though. 400 plus. If you're not ready for it, that is bad news. But I think this Dark Matter is going to take it down. Yep, there it goes. We get a Gloom Cape. Now, fun fact about this next part. Before the Lavos Core fight, you have an animation, followed by a fade out into the fight. At the very darkest part of the fade out, when the screen is totally black, if you click and hold X, you can get into the menu. And you can actually heal as though you were on the open. You can't use a shelter, but you can use all sorts of healing items. You can re-equip. Let's see if Procky can get into the menu. He gets into the menu. Bada boom. Right there. And he's got a free action to heal up. And that becomes incredibly crucial for this because very rarely, if ever, are you in a safe area with your hit points and your magic points in order to take on Lavos Core after that. He heals up as best he can. And here we go, Lavos Core. Now he's going to do a pretty standard strategy. Taking on the left bit. Left bit has three... Oh, rough stuff. Robo missed with an Uzi. And the left bit always leads out with Protective Seal. Left bit has 3,000 hit points. If you take out the left bit or the center bit, the right bit drops its defense. Oh! Crying Heaven's Hidden Blow. So instead of doing any sort of stretch, any sort of changing of background... the special that the center bit does. He gets slap happy. Goes for Crying Heaven's Hidden Blow. There's also a piece of the script where the center bit can just run up and slap you across the face for really hard-hitting physical damage. Oh, man. Rocky's having a heck of a time right here. This is bad news. Let's hope this takes down the left bit. It does. Okay. That's... Oh, 365 takes Frog down. Let's see if Time Warp actually nullifies that Chaos status. This is a bad place for Procky. So Evil Star is only a percentile attack. I don't know that Procky's got the ability to recover from this. This is nuts. Living on the edge right here. Gonna take an elixir. And the next thing is gonna show that Dreamless is what's coming out. And Procky goes, you know what? YOLO. Gonna throw out a Dark Matter. Hoping to get rid of that center bit. Center bit has 8,000 hit points, so that's not going to work. And Dreamless comes out. Dreamless is the ultimate magic attack. It's non-elemental magic damage. It can do upwards of 485. It is a nasty, nasty attack. 336. That magic damage. Rocky's just going solo Megas. There's Protective Seal. Didn't really have any status protection to begin with. What's he gonna do now, though? Still trying to make it work with solo Megas. Invading Light Slow is probably my least favorite attack. It does decent damage to you, about 200, yeah, 232, but it inflicts slow. And what that does is it not only reduces your ATB speed by half, it also increases the amount of incoming damage that comes at you, as well as reduces your damage output. It is really, really bad stuff. And Megas is going to go down now. That's 350 straight up. And there's the reset. It was a valiant effort from Proccy, but that was definitely rip. As averaen decides that it is time to go get some. Line Bomb doing the work. And there's Flare, Frog Squash, and Frog Flare. Very, very nice text, especially for that Lavos. You might actually see some center bit strats from averaen right there. Proccy went after the left bit with physical damage. Got a little unlucky. Missed with that Uzi punch, but if you take out the center bit, not only does the right bit drop its defenses, but also you don't get any of those big special moves. Dreamless, Grandstone, the random status, Evil Star. You don't get any of that stuff because that's all center bit attacks. It can be a really effective way to mitigate a lot of the incoming damage from Lavos Core. Oh, back-to-backer on Frog. Really unkind. Sometimes that can happen. And there's Obstacle. Wants to see if Magus is inflicted. He is. So he's got to heal Magus. And Magus is going to revive Frog. Got to make sure to heal up before Shadow Doom. Shadow Slay, excuse me. Shadow Slay is going to take Frog right back down. And Shadow Slay also inflicts poison damage. And Proccy's not shy about using a Mega Elixir now. Got 4 of them, might as well. And it's time to go get some. It's time for some damage. Proccy's playing it incredibly risky right now. He's got this fight well under control, though. Shadow Doomblaze, we've seen it before. There's Evil Emanation. All it does is add, I believe, 25% outgoing damage, which, if you get a Shadow Doomblaze off with that, that will kill you. But with 10,000 hit points remaining, that shouldn't be an issue. Here comes that Uzi punch. Probably should do it. Yep, there it is. Now, let's see if Proccy changes his strategy right there. He could still sub to this if he gets some decent RNG and mitigates the damage effectively. Lavos Core rematch. And he gets into the menu again. Oh boy. This is something that all of the runners of Jets of Time have really started to practice, and it's really fun to watch people embrace the tech, the speedrunning tech that Chrono Trigger has built into it. being able to do all of those little tricks. Adds the Gloom Cape for a little extra defense. Hopefully that actually does the trick. So 362 on Frog. Let's hope we don't get a back-to-backer here. Frog gets his attack off at the very least. Got about 1,300 damage on that left bit. Not enough to kill it. So you're gonna see Protective Seal. Protective Seal on Magus is fine though, because Magus wasn't protected from statuses in the first one. So that's kind RNG there. And Magus is Stop. Stop is ugly because it lowers your defense by a ton. Oh, and an unfortunate shot on Frog right there. Frog goes down. And then we see Evil Star. Evil Star is fine. It's percentage-based. 50% of your current hit points. Ooh, averaen gets the skip. Averaen gets the skip on the side right there. Good to see that. Gotta fly to the side and straight down. And Proccy gets that elixir off. That mega elixir. That's big. Oh, boy. Center bit is being unkind to Proccy today. He's getting slap happy on Magus and did 9 more hit points worth of damage. Oh, no! Taking shots left and right. So fast. So fast. Now, the right bit still does not have its defenses back up, so you see Proccy is going after that right bit. He's going to make sure that he gets as much damage done to the actual core as possible. There's a Protective Seal on Frog. Hopefully that doesn't actually end up being important. Man, Lavos is being so unkind. Another slap to the face and Frog goes down. Those slaps and the Crying Heavens, those are incredibly powerful attacks. Single target, of course, so you can recover from them, but it is just a nightmare to handle that, especially when you've got all 3 bits coming at you. And another slap on Robo. Ugh. Lavos, please. Such a nasty set of attacks. Going after the center bit now. Has decided that he doesn't want any more center bit issue. And the plus about taking the center bit out, so you don't have to deal with any of those really strong attacks. Thinking about popping a Mega Elixir right here. Center bit goes down. All right. Now, averaen just got through the Golem Twins. You notice that Proccy has actually switched from using Dark Matter to using Dark Bomb. Reason being is that if you use Dark Matter, it hits both bits. If the center bit is gone, there is a script where both of the bits that are still alive do an X-Strike attack on you, and it is hard-hitting. You want no part of that. But with the center bit gone, Lavos Core has been trivialized. Can't do any of the major damage attacks. Can't slap now. Well, there's Active Life. Revives the bit. Now that the bit is revived, Dark Matter will not trigger an X-Strike attack, but you do still have that nasty center bit coming at you. And here comes Dark Matter. Proccy doesn't have any more Mega Elixir, so this could be right down to the wire. Oh! And so when it comes back with full health. Yes, it comes back with 8,000 hit. It is, of course, not Lavos proper. Just remember that. That's not the real bit. Proccy's really hoping that this does the deed right here. Does it do it? Boom! Lavos core is down. That is GG's for Mr. Proccy at 158.45. Right down to the wire in one of, I think, the most clench Lavos core fights I have ever seen, ever. And even with a wipe on the Lavos core fight and having to go back and do the tentacles fight into the core fight, still got that sub 2. Still proved me right and got that sub 2. Very, very nicely done from Proccy. We rolled the dice and it paid off. That was by no means a safe strategy the way that Proccy was heading for it, but got through it and definitely knows how to manage it, knows the AI, knows the way that you have to set up the fight, and knows the value of gear. And that's what it's all about, right? And we get to see that just like in the real vanilla game, depending on your party setup, you have different endings. And this is the Chrono-less ending. It's very sad, actually. So if you've never seen Chrono Trigger end without Chrono, this is what it looks like right here. And we'll see if Proccy wants to join us for a little talkie-talkie. As we watch averaen. I keep saying averaen. As we watch averaen take down the lava shell. And now he's inside the shell into the fight. Funny enough, the first time I played Chrono Trigger, I didn't know you could have Magus as a party member. I always killed him. And then I saw speedrun and went, say what? Now, averaen is doing something a little bit different right here. Averaen is taking his battle speed down to 3. Well, what does that do? That lowers the ATB speed of everybody. That includes monsters. But it allows you to get your inputs in sooner in relation to the monsters. So very oftentimes you will find that this fight seems really, really fast, but lowering that battle speed makes it a little easier to handle. Proccy is in here in game comment. See if he decides, hey, Proxter, congratulations on a nail-biting and very unkind Lavos core fight. Well done.
Yeah, I'm pretty sweaty right now.
Yeah, that was incredible. The 3 slaps in a row was brutal.
That's when I started to get...
Yeah, Lavos
started getting angry there.
Back-to-back shot of Frog. Like, you were scraping and scrounging your way through the entire thing, and to get sub 2 after all of that speaks volumes to your ability to handle all and sundry. Talk to me a little bit about how you decided to prepare for this fight when you found go mode.
I was nervous because I never like bringing Frog, or Magus really into the final fight. I'm watching now the stream. I see averaen has just a much better setup for endgame with Luca. She has very strong magic, and Yeah, so I did the grind in the Ocean Palace until I got Dark Matter. I did find the 2 Prism specs, so I was pretty happy about that.
Yeah, that was huge.
If I didn't have the 2 Prism specs and the Nova armors, I might have had to try something different there.
Yeah, you did something that averaen actually didn't do, is you went around and looted all the sealed chests and the sealed doors with the pendant. You took down some of that stuff, made it a lot easier for you through all of the seed, actually, from Tyranno layer on through the end game, because you had 2 Prism specs, a Sunshades. You found those Nova armors and stuff. Like, you were loaded for bear and ready to rock.
And I was nervous because the whole time I'm still on, like, the first weapon I bought for Robo, and I was coming up to that final chest in Ocean Palace and thinking, come on, something for Robo, and it was a Terra arm.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was a big no whammy. Boy, did you nail it.
Yeah, that was
doesn't get much better than that right there.
No, sir.
So your opening game, you went into the cathedral, got a character, and then talk to me a little bit about why you do what you do going out of the cathedral.
Okay, so it depends on what characters I start with. If I don't have Robo or Marl, then I will always get that 4th character from fighting Yakra. If I start with Robo, I'm pretty likely to skip the Yakra fight, but I'll still loot the cathedral. So yeah, that's how that works, I guess.
Right. Now, having Robo and Magus in your party and stuff, you had Sunken Desert open early, and you went Denadoro Mountain pretty much immediately following your Zombor fight. Talk to me a little bit about the reasoning.
Well, I also, right before that Denadoro, I went back to Lean Square and got a couple of good weapons. One for Frog, one for Robo, to make that a little easier. I tend to not go into the desert unless I have a AoE water or ice. So I don't know, it's naturally how I tend to play it. I start at Denadoro. If I have Magus, I make sure that I'm gonna learn Dark Bomb to beat Hekran, and then after I do those 2 things in my runs, if I have Robo at that point, I will go into Desert, and then I'm just able to, quickly clean up all the fights in there. Right. I know it's not necessary. You can run from them and go straight to Retinite, but it seemed like the right thing to do in this case.
Yeah, one of the things I was going over as you were scrounging through and just blistering through the Sunken Desert with Magus's ice too. It's like that's a good source of grinding early. Gets you up to some pretty decent levels to take on just about anything. Level 16, 17, 18. That's
yeah, and even though I didn't have magic learned at that point, the only character who could learn it was Frog. So I figured, we'll sacrifice Frog's magic because, am I really gonna get him Frog Squash at the end? No, it's not gonna happen. So
yeah, Frog Squash is one of those things that I don't feel comfortable utilizing just because I'm not a fan of getting into critical hit point strats. But the people who are able to use Frog Squash to its fullest potential, I mean, kudos to them, and it totally makes sense.
Yeah, especially Frog Flare. Woof! Now that spell is...
Well, Frog Flare is the real deal. That's you get Frog with 1 hit point and Luca with Prism specs, and it is over. Like, that can do upwards of 5k damage.
I think I've done maybe 6k on the center bit with Frog Flare.
Yeah, you can do a lot of damage there. So, tell me a little bit about preparing for the Azala Black Tyranno fight. what do you have in mind as you're approaching that? Do you feel comfortable where you're at? Are you looking for levels, gear? What are you looking
For that fight, I like to have some status spell, like Marl's Provoke or Hypno Wave from Luca to put Azala to sleep. And then I can, while she's sleeping and I'm waiting for Black Tyranno to shut off his defense, I'll like throw up barriers and stuff. So I knew I was maybe a little under leveled there. I think I had to I used Magic Wall and one barrier, and I think it saved me because that was pretty close when he finally attacked.
Yeah. So averaen actually took a wipe to that fight. You guys were in the fight at the exact same time with the defenses down at the exact same time. And averaen took a wipe because he was about 3 levels lower than you and couldn't handle the AoE attack.
I admit I was peeking at the chat. I don't have the stream on, but I was peeking at chat and I saw a bunch of Fs go up and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
But then I also, I bid it to Golem Twins and Lavo, so.
Yeah, there have been a lot of really, really clench wipes in this. A lot of risky plays, too. We're actually seeing right now part of what I was talking about with no center bit. If you hit the left side with no center bit up there, they do an X strike attack for Lavo's core, and that's something that I try to mitigate by just doing single target attacks. averaen is actually doing something really interesting. Put Protect up on Luca, and then is casting Flare so that she can survive each of those X strikes, which I think is a really genius way to do that. I might actually start doing that right now. Magus up with
as long as they stay alive, that's what you want.
So Magus follows it up with Dark Matter, takes an X strike, he's still alive, and then Frog is actually going to follow that up with a heal. So really, averaen doesn't have to change any of his strategies except for healing MP. It really makes me go, So Procky, talk to me a little bit about your preferred party. What's your favorite party in Jets of Time? And why?
Favorite party. I actually do really like a Luca Frog combination for Line Bomb and for Frog Flare, if you happen to learn that. It's tough to say what's my favorite. My least favorite character might be Ayla.
Oh, wow.
I know she's so strong.
Wow. Heresy!
Yeah, I know it is.
Yeah, but why would you say that? Why would you say that? What is it about Ayla that turns you off?
I think she just, you have to be patient while you level her up, and there's other characters who are stronger like early and mid game. But ideal end party, I don't know, maybe something like Luca, Marl, Chrono, or Luca, Marl, Robo. Because Luca, Marl together, obviously you get the antipode spells, which are extremely overpowered. And if you get like Crisis Arm and a gold earring on Robo, then you have a really good combination team that can deal heavy physical damage and AoE magic as well.
I mean, Robo with a Crisis Arm and max hit points is a one-man wrecking crew. Like, it doesn't matter what your other two characters are.
Pretty much,
yeah,
absolutely.
Stuck in healing, and that's it. Yeah, of course, it is no secret in the community. My favorite party setup is Chrono, Robo, Ayla.
Chrono, Robo, Ayla. Yeah, well, that's a good one too. I mean,
you've got Falcon Hit.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, if Ayla kind of has to go with Chrono, I think, together for them to really meet their potential, right?
Well, what's interesting is that a lot of the lesser-known things, actually, Rastercease was talking a little bit about this a couple of months ago. One of the lesser-known things is Ayla's synergies with some of the other characters. For example, her synergy with Luca she has a fire whirl of her own that's an AoE fire attack that does, like, a ton of damage. And there it is. Averaen takes down Lavos Core, and that is 213.05, which
nice.
is a great time, especially given all of the wipes, all of the adversity that Averaen was dealing with. That is... What a great set of runs that we saw here today, and what a wonderful jet seed. Also, I appreciate you, Proccy, showing off a little bit of the powered-up pendant there and the way to the future. That way we saw a little bit of a taste of all of the eras. It was a really good thing to show off there.
Yeah, it was funny. I actually made a bit of a mistake there because I traveled to the future to get magic while I had the gate key, and I was like, what am I doing? And then, oh, I think I'll open these chests.
Yeah. Well, and then that proved to be huge as you found a couple of prism specs and a sunshades in there.
Pretty ridiculous.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations on probably one of the hardest fought seeds I have seen in a long time. You played risky and you got through it with some great ideas and a couple of them that I actually didn't think about and am going to implement myself. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good, actually. I was pretty sure I was behind from the beginning. I was a little shaky at the start, so I was a little worried I'd fallen completely behind.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, Averaen, you were exactly neck and neck with Proccy in the Azala Black Chrono fight before you won.
Oh, no way. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly 100% side by side, and it was incredible to watch. It was just that one wipe that took it down. Talk to me a little bit about your opening game and your end game and how you deal with golem.
So yeah, for the golems in particular, I like to have a set of resist armors, so I can just... They counter whatever element you throw at them, so I like to throw a particular element at them and just have them hit me back with that element, knowing that I'll be completely safe. It can be a pretty sketchy fight, the twin golems, if you don't have that extra level of control over it. Early on, I saw well, I'm not a huge fan of having Robo and Frog in the same party. They're both kind of support characters. So when I saw them both in the start, I went for the third or the fourth character. I think a lot of people would take Robo over Frog, but I kind of like Frog in that particular party, just because I know he's going to be sitting there and just throwing heals while Marluka and Magus kill everything.
Yeah, it's good. You had all your elements covered. Just one more question for you, actually, Averaen, because we're nearing the end of our time. What's your favorite Jets of Time 3 party? Go.
That's actually tricky. Probably it's a toss-up between Chrono, Isla, Magus, or Chrono, Luca, Magus. In one of the recent patches, the mages got very heavily buffed, and I think Luca's probably my favorite character now, so I probably think Chrono, Luca, Magus would edge it up for me now.
Love it. Well, guys, well raced. Hugely underestimate what a jet seed, and showed off a great multitude of strategies. I appreciated you both. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Muppets.
And thank you, everyone who's watching on Stryzer's stream. Love to you all, and if you're interested, go ahead and check it out. Pretty active Discord community.